So this, I think, takes me to the other area that I'm really interested in, which is the self-saboteur, and how I feel like I spend my entire life with the part of me that knows exactly what I should, in inverted commas, be doing, and the part of me that is doing whatever the hell it likes. Really.
Yeah.
How do you work with that?
Oh, that is such an interesting question. I definitely have a self-saboteur. Definitely. I recognised that immediately when you said that. I personally try and detach a bit from it. So like what you were saying, maybe detach isn't the right word, where, do you know when you were saying about noticing the cynic?
Yes.
So I sometimes imagine my niece.
Okay.
So, but I think anyone who you feel an uncomplicated, like, love for,
yes,
I think would work. And because sometimes kids go, I don't want to go to that party.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's, I don't want to go to that party because I'm scared of the party and actually they'll feel good if they go.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they don't want to go to the party because there's people they don't like at the party and it's going to make them feel crap.
Yeah.
So sometimes I like imagine that it was my niece.
Oh, I like that.
And I say, so if my niece came to me with this situation, would I say, get on your party frock, you'll feel better? Or would I say, oh no, actually they are not, you're not going to feel better, you need to have a night in today? And for some reason, well, the reason is because I have an uncomplicated love for my niece and it's not the same with yourself.
Definitely.
It's easier to do it with that because it is sometimes, we'll use exercise as an example, sometimes you say, oh, I've got a cold, I don't want to do it. And sometimes it's because you're not well and you absolutely need to rest. And sometimes it's because
you can't be asked.
It's because it's your self-saboteur. I think that as well, it's like, what's it trying to sabotage?
Well, I think this is fear of success, whatever that might be. So, like, I would say most of us pretty much know what we, in inverted commas again, should be doing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, there's the part of us that wants to give up smoking, the part of us that doesn't, whatever it might be, and yet we don't do it. And it's like coming back to what I was saying about that woman who wants to give up smoking. It's like, if I could actually do that, whatever it might be, what else could I do? So if I could dedicate myself and have the discipline to have a daily yoga practice, then what else could I do?
Do you think as well, though, it's a bit about overwhelm and about finding self? Because when you were saying that, I was thinking, well, I've got like a million things I would want to do.
True. True.
I want to be able to, like, I could dedicate myself to make an amazing pastry and open a delicatessen in Paris, or I could, dedicate myself to getting an allotment and rescuing chickens, or I could just dedicate myself to having amazing hair. Like, all of these things that take effort.
It's picking which one.
Because then it's like almost like fear of commitment. Because once you've committed to one, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else.
Yeah.
So there's always a bit of tragedy in the happiness, because you've picked your...
What do you have to say no to in order to say yes?
And I think it's really hard for somebody who has lots of ideas and has lots of... And I don't think this is this might sound like a bad thing, but I don't think it is a bad thing. Someone who has lots of presentations of self. So somebody who has lots of, when we were talking about authenticity before, like, people, the way we think about ourselves in this society, because we obviously have got the idea of self from a Judeo-Christian idea, is that we kind of have a soul, and that there is like a true us that is like implanted in our bodies, and then we go through our lives, and then we die, and that same soul goes up to heaven. But actually, who we are depends on our brain chemistry, the context of the situation. like all of the things we've had happen to us in our past, and it's forever changing.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want in any one given time is going to be different to what you want in another time. Like, have you ever had that experience where you go home and you open your mum's fridge and it feels like you've always lived at your mum's house? And it feels like you've just never, like all that time that's happened away, you feel like you've gone back to the version of you that was there.
Sort of. I do have a habit that it's like the first thing I do is I go through the cupboards.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm like, I need to check all of the cupboards.
But I bet there's a different Rachel in different contexts.
Oh, I'm 15. As soon as I go home,
Yeah.
I'm 15 again.
Yeah. And I think that's why sometimes it's so difficult for us to commit to something.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, it's going to take work. So which one do you want? Like,
Yeah.
do you want to be a pro tennis player? Or do you want to be a Buddhist monk? Or do you want to be...
Well, I do tend to think, yeah, I can totally relate to that kind of almost wanting 10 different lives at once. You know, married, children, living in a retreat centre, travelling the world, living in a little hut, being up on stage, being, you know, a proper, really high up saxophonist. Even though I haven't even passed my grade 2 yet. You know, like all of these different versions. And I want to do all of them.
Yeah.
I want to be a hermit and like a really gregarious out there person at the same time.
And there's not one that's more you.
No. It's different facets.
It's just different facets of the you. And I think that can be why it's sometimes difficult for something like, because if you do yoga every day, then you're somebody who does yoga every day.
Yeah.
And then becomes part of who you are. And sometimes that's difficult because maybe that isn't who you, but at the end of the day, it's just getting your mat out and doing some yoga. Like, it doesn't need to be a personality.
And then it's also about intention, isn't it? Because if you're doing yoga every day because you're a person who does yoga every day, but you've stopped enjoying it about 10 years ago, what the hell is the point?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So we also, not only do we need to do whatever we're doing, we need to kind of remind ourselves why we're doing it.
Yeah, and I'm a massive fan of intention because I think that the intention that you bring to something is going to inform how you are in that thing. And sometimes, quite often, the thing that your intention is, sometimes the thing that you're doing is pulling you away from it. So an example of that might be running a marathon. Mm-hmm. So if someone runs a marathon, and this obviously isn't true of everyone who's ever run a marathon, but if you dig down, you say, well, why are you running a marathon? They might say, well, because I don't know why I'm running a marathon. Okay, well, why? Because I want to be healthy. Mm-hmm. Okay, why do you want to be healthy? I want to be healthy because I want to live a long time. Why do you want to live a long time? Because I want to spend time with my family. All right, well, you want to spend time with your family. Why are you spending 14 hours a week out there on the pavement when actually it's probably healthier to just run 3 times a week
and save your knees,
and it's actually better for your heart and it's better for everything, and your wife doesn't complain because you're out all the time running and you can actually spend time with your family. And I think that often happens with intentions and goals where if we don't unpick them, sometimes it can almost spiral us away from the thing that we're wanting.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that with driving.
Oh.
Because I've not passed my test. And I suspect a big part of that is because my intention behind learning to drive might be, well, partly because it feels like I should do because it's a grown-up thing. So a should isn't going to get me driving.
No. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point about the should. And I think people feel that a lot with yoga.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think there's some people who just don't like yoga, and that's okay. But they feel like good people do yoga.
Yes.
And it's like, and that's just incomprehensible to me. Like, I don't just do something else. do something you enjoy. Like, you don't have to like yoga. Doing yoga doesn't make you a better person.
But I think there is a bit of a kind of, I think some people who do yoga do think it makes them better people.
Oh yeah, I do think that, but
there's a smugness. There is a yoga smugness out there.
It does make you feel smug. Yeah, I do understand that. I think there is definitely yoga smugness, but I think that needs to be challenged.
Yeah, because like there'll be things I'll see on social media from your kind of smug yogis that will make me want to be sick.
Yeah, and I think as well it's that it can be fixed with yoga.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I cured my this with yoga, which the flip side of that is, well, if you just did yoga, you'd be cured.
And so it's your own fault.
So it's your own fault, and I really resent that. I think that's really unfair, and I think
it's harmful.
It's really harmful, and it's really cruel, because that's not true. And some people just don't like yoga, and that's okay. Go do something you like. Don't keep battering yourself again. Like, it doesn't make you a better person if you can touch your toes. It doesn't make you a better person.
And the other thing is that message that I think can sometimes be in there is, if you can't do a particular pose, that's something going on for you that you
I hate that.
You need to look at your shit, basically.
Oh yeah, that really annoys me. That's just not true. Bodies are different. Some people can do some things, some people can't do other things. And also, like, you don't have to look at your shit all the time. It's boring. It's boring. Like, no one needs to look at their own shit all the time. And it's just really unfair.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just can't stand on one leg because you just can't stand on one leg. Yeah. Sometimes you can't stand on two legs. That doesn't make you, I think it's really ableist.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's basically saying that how healthy and well you are physically and mentally is a reflection of how good you are as a person.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I just think that is so unfair.
It's just totally wrong.
And I think I think one of the reasons why yoga in the form that it has been so welcomed by, like, yoga started as a counterculture. Like, yoga was a counterculture. Yoga was a radical thing to do. Yoga was was embraced in the 60s because in the West, obviously, I'm talking about yoga in the West. I'm not talking about yoga in the East, which existed for much, much, much longer. But yoga in the West was embraced in the way that it was in the 60s because they were looking for a voice that was different from the Western. They were looking for that counterculture voice. They didn't want to hear. They didn't want to hear from the Western voice. They needed a voice that was different. And yoga. The yogis of the time gave them that. They were looking outwards for something that was completely different to the culture that they were used to.
That's really interesting.
And now yoga, you can literally massive corporations give yoga to their employees, and the reason for that is because it is the same. The loudest voices in yoga are replicating the same message.
Yes.
That it's not radical.
Yeah.
It's not radical that we're gonna, that your goodness, your worth as a person is directly linked to your productivity, your wellness physically, your wellness if you have a mental or physical health problem. Well, that's really helpful just at the point when the NHS is crumbling, that we just so happen to pick up a message that it's up to your individual, it's up to the individual to look after their mental and physical health. And there's that balance, isn't there? Because obviously there's the balance between individual responsibility and community responsibility, but it's not, the message of yoga isn't radical in the same way that it was, because it's just a replication of.
What's interesting is because I'm thinking about the wellness agenda in workplaces and the danger. I mean, some workplaces are brilliant in offering things that will help and support their staff, but I think for a lot, either it's just paying lip service,
ticky box,
or it's a case of, we're going to offer you these things, And then when you come to me to say that you're stressed because of what's happening at work, we're going to say, well, did you do the yoga class that we gave you? We gave you all of these lovely things. And it's blaming the staff. When actually do I want a yoga class, or do I want my colleague's job to be replaced so I'm not doing two jobs at once?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's something really interesting as well, is that there's a lot of yogis in America who, and over here as well, that are big in like massive Trump supporters.
Oh, interesting.
And a lot of the alt-right stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's because it's of that individualistic message.
Okay.
So that message is its own, like everything is a reflection of you. If someone annoys you, it's because of something that's wrong with you. If you work hard at something, then it's a very, it's a classical Republican message.
American dream.
Yeah. Obvious, but that isn't the yoga. That isn't the yoga that I know. That's not the yoga that I practice. That's not the yoga and I don't think it's the voice of lots of yoga teachers.
No.
I think there's definitely a turn in that. But because the word yoga is such a broad thing, I think it's a really interesting thing.
It's amazing how things can get twisted, isn't it?